guys, I'm Tarini Shah. Welcome or welcome back to my YouTube channel. For people who are new here, hi, I'm Tarini Shah. And also, welcome to On The Record, which is a new series that I've started. I know I didn't speak about the first episode. I don't know why I did that, but welcome to the second episode. The entire purpose of On The Record was to actually bring out people who want to tell their stories and give them a platform to do so, because I am a person who loves storytelling. I love to know where people have come from, what they've done, how they've made art everywhere, and I love knowing the stories behind it. So yeah, I thought of building something that could also help me know more about some amazing people and let you also get to know them at the same time. So welcome to this episode, and this time we have Dhruv, and Dhruv is an amazing singer-songwriter, and I absolutely love his work. You might have heard him mainly on this song, which is Double Take, which went absolutely viral, and it was honestly so much fun to hear his new album prior to everybody else, because this interview was taken like first week of August, and I literally went down a rabbit hole where I just constantly kept listening to all the songs and the lyrics and found so many beautiful stories within the lyrics. And also the album's out now completely, so you can go check it out. The link will be in the description. So yeah, here's a fun conversation that we had about him, his music, and all the stories he had to tell on the record. What do you think? What, according to you, is the most gut-wrenching lyric that you've written?
And spent all this time with and knows all this information about you, and you know all this information about them, and then you don't see them anymore.
In the song Tragedy, you confess to almost being an overthinker. How's that life like?
Compatible with you, and whether you've like missed the idea of a soulmate, whatever it is, and I think friends are really good for telling you that.
What lesson did you learn from heartbreak, if there was one thing that you had to do? We have Dhruv here with us. Hi.
Hello.
I've been boring him with a lot of my conversation already, but everyone on planet Earth by now has heard Double Take. I absolutely love your music.
Thank
and
you.
It's super calming to me. It's something that I can listen to any point of time. And I kept this for the camera because I really wanted
that's so sweet. Thank you.
to capture your reaction on that. You're in India right now. We are sitting in Bombay. You're here for your new album, which is Private Blizzard. I've heard it already. I really wanted to ask, why the name Private Blizzard?
I think for me, well, there are two reasons. One of them, the process of making this album, so much of it was like me sitting in coffee shops out in public. In that environment, sitting next to other people who had no idea what I was thinking about, the intensity of the songs that I was writing, it felt like a perfect description of that process of quietly untangling things. So that was one of them. And then the other thing is the sound of the album. It's a contrast, so it operates in the contrast of Private being the writing, so the intimacy of the writing, how vulnerable it is, and then the blizzard being the sound of the album. So it's like very maximal, has lots of instruments, and it's quite depressing in some moments, right?
Yes.
And so it has this like wintry sheen under it.
Yeah. I think one thing I noticed personally were the lyrics. I feel one thing I also realized is that I feel you've described the situations that you were in very well. Like, I could imagine myself being in a subway or like in a train and actually feel exactly what you're feeling. Is that something you've been doing for a while, that the descriptive behavior of your lyrics? Or is that something that comes natural to you?
So my first project was very internal, and obviously this album's called Private Blizzard, so it is internal, but it considers my place within the world more. It's a bit more existential. And so with this album specifically, there's a lot of painting the picture of where I am physically and obviously also mentally. So this album is, I think, leans more heavy on the like descriptive elements of it, but my writing style has always been very like just speaking from my perspective, my life, the things I see, the things I feel.
And I think it communicates very, very well, especially. And I feel if you're listening to the music, please hear the lyrics. Like, literally sit with them, and you have to, because coming to that point, the lyrics are gut-wrenching.
I'm imagining you just reading the like depressing like pages and pages of them.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did. I'm not even kidding. What do you think? What, according to you, is the most gut-wrenching lyric that you've written?
Ooh, okay. This is a tough one. I think on this album, my favorite lyric is like one of the simpler ones, which is, "And I know you've got places to be, but can you be here with me?" I think that's pretty, it's a simple sentiment, but it's like, it's pretty sad.
I love the line in Tragedy where I'm like, I'm the main character
in my own
tragedy. I love that line. It hit right where it hurts. I've heard grieving, okay, and it talks a lot about letting someone go, actually moving on from somebody, but also the acceptance of it. At least that was my perspective when I heard the song. I want to know what was yours. What phase were you in when you wrote Grieving, and what it really is about?
So Grieving is about end of a relationship, and it's about how obviously like that doesn't compare to the finality of like the biggest grief in the world, which is death, but it feels like a shade of it in a way because it's somebody that you know and that you've loved and spent all this time with and knows all this information about you, and you know all this information about them, and then you don't see them anymore, and they're not a part of your life, and there's a process of getting over somebody and moving on with your life where it really feels like you've killed off a part of them within you, you know? And so for me, it was exploring this idea of like the ends of a relationship as a shade of grief and as a process of grieving in some way.
I feel everybody around you is always like, how can a relationship or how can a heartbreak make you feel this way?
Yeah.
And then you come around to actually someday feeling it. And as a third person, you're always like, yeah, maybe, you know.
Yeah.
But when you feel it, I feel it's not like that. It's everybody has their own way of grieving through things and dealing with things and feeling what they were. So what were certain things that actually helped you get out of that phase?
My friends were one, like having just really good friends and people. The part of a relationship ending is scary is you wonder maybe if you'll ever find somebody that's right for you again, or somebody that's like going to be compatible with you, and whether you've like missed the idea of a soulmate, whatever it is. And I think friends are really good for telling you that you're being ridiculous. Like there are billions of people in the world.
They're gonna bring you back to ground.
No, they bring you back to the ground for sure. But then also it takes time. Like that's just kind of how it is. The initial shock of it. There is a process to it, you know, with any sort of, even if it's like a friendship breakup and you don't see a friend those can be, grieving that friendship can be horrible as well. Yeah. And I think that it's a word that applies to lots of different situations. And I think the thing that I enjoy about this song is that it's like you can take it however you want. Even if you haven't had a painful relationship heartbreak, it's you know, whatever it is to you.
I think that's the beauty of music, because it fits every person in their own way. I feel if you put like 5 people in a room and you ask what they thought about the song, everybody would have a different connection.
That's exactly what, with that song specifically, like what you said initially, like people think it's about, you know, maybe a friend passing away, which is like the lyric and the thing, and then other people have clocked that it's about a relationship based on just like the cadence of some of it, and then other people have different interpretations of it, and it's just entirely up to the listener to decide what it is for them, and what it means for me is obviously completely different.
But do you enjoy that when like people come with different perspectives to you and they're like, oh, this is, and you're just like, you thought that about the song? Interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes it's like very funny to me when people are just interpreting it their own way. I mean, a very obvious example is Double Take, where people sort of interpreted the line, boy, you got me hooked onto something. Some people were like, is he referring to the subject of, is he referring to a man? Is he referring to a guy? Other people are like thinking that it's, oh boy, like, oh man, like I'm saying it as a phrase. And so there are definitely instances of it where it's like, it's just funny to me. It's like funny too.
What's happening?
Yeah.
Another thing that you spoke about was soulmates. Like I heard you mention it and I was like, I want to ask you this. What's your take on soulmates?
I've come around to the view just that there are just so many people, and I think a first relationship might feel like your soulmate, but that's why maybe first relationships are really hard, because it's the first time you experience that. But I think the further, you know, I've dated, like had crushes on many people since, and I've come around to this idea that, you know, it's this fish in the sea, for sure.
Like when you fall in love, I feel there's a little part of you that you're giving away to the person, but not technically giving away for them to have, but it's that specific part of you is for them. And I feel like if you give all of yourself to one person when it becomes a soulmate, I think you're giving too much to a person and too much control. But I also believe in the idea of soulmates. It's such a contradicting thing.
No, that's fair. Yeah. That makes sense.
I think now I'm starting to wrap my head around the concept of not taking everything too seriously in life. Because I've spent a lot of my time thinking that, oh yeah, no, if I say something wrong, if I do something wrong, I'm going to lose the person. Yeah. And I feel in initial stages, at least, you end up doing that. But what's your take on taking things in life too seriously?
I think that's a great kind of learning to have, because I used to be like that as well. I used to be like, oh my god, if I say something wrong. But I do think that if you find like the right person or somebody who you're compatible with, then it wouldn't matter. Not your soulmate. I said somebody you're compatible with. One of the many people you could be compatible with and like could live have a long relationship with, like they would be able to see past those things. And
that's true. Do you believe love is enough for a relationship to work? Or is love and compatibility equally important?
I definitely think compatibility is important. I think taste is important. I think like if you have really different tastes from something, like if you couldn't decorate a house with your significant other,
And what's the point?
I don't know how that would. I don't know how that would work. And then beyond love, like I think any relationship is work. Like to an extent that there's an ease about it, but there's also a sacrifice in terms of like wanting to make the other person feel the love, feel seen. It's a mix of a bunch of different things, but the love is definitely like a huge part of it, but obviously these other things I think creep into the relationship as well.
I think a balance between everything really matters.
Yeah, I think so.
What lesson did you learn from heartbreak, if there was one thing that you had to give?
One lesson from heartbreak, I guess I would just say that time is a healer. And time gives you the clarity and the perspective that you need. It's really hard to see things super far in the future when you're really within it. It's such a cliched thing, but like time is a healer, but it's so true. Like it is.
Yeah, I think time fixes everything.
Not everything, but I think it like.
What is the not everything?
It definitely helps things, but I think I'm trying to think of a specific example. I guess it was like the absolute of like everything that I was like.
Because you were so fast with it, I was like, do you have something in your head?
No, I don't have anything specific, but I'm sure there are things that like stay.
In the song Tragedy, you confess to almost being an overthinker. How's that life like?
Being an overthinker.
Because I totally relate to it.
You relate to it?
Yeah.
Then you know that it can be not very fun sometimes.
Yeah.
It's a blessing in some ways, I guess, in the way for work, it's nice to be detail-oriented in a social situation. Maybe not the best, like you're thinking too much about what other people are thinking, how they're perceiving you. I feel that with music, being in front of people, like doing shows, that kind of thing, because it's so forward-facing, it's also not the best. I see other artists who aren't overthinkers. From the outside, it seems like they have a much easier time with, like, for example, being on social media, like being up in front in people's faces and stuff. But I'm always like thinking every post, every story, every like thing. I'm like, I wish this was easy. You don't. But I mean, you're like a social media like savant. Like I'm assuming that you don't have that.
So being an overthinker in social media is also not that great.
Yeah. Okay. So,
I feel being an overthinker in general, like as you said, it's a blessing and a curse because you're also able to think. When you're an overthinker, you're able to take care of a person very well because you've already thought of everything that they would want, everything you can do that they would need. And that's, I think, a great thing in it. Like it's such a great thing to be in a relationship with an overthinker because they already know everything you need.
Okay, so this is I disagree with you. Being in a relationship with an overthinker, I mean, it depends on the flavor of overthinking because then you get people who are also like, who can be like have anxious attachment styles and overthink.
I think it's a combination of what kind of overthinker. That's true. That's again blessing and a curse.
Blessing and a curse.
Everything in balance.
Everything in balance.
We
agree. With that we agree.
On that we agree. Even in life, love, compatibility,
love,
everything in balance.
Everything
I'm a hardcore lover girl, but this album hits me, so you know why. I'm coming up with such contradicting things because I feel like being anybody who believes in love too much in this world. So there's something called dreamers and there's something called realists. And I heard this line where the realists need the dreamers to push them up, up there, take them somewhere, and the dreamers need the realists to come sometimes, like, get them to the real world. And I feel the balance in any relationship is.
And do you think that one person, like, do you think one person, it fluctuates in phases? Like, somebody can be a dreamer for a certain amount of time and then become a realist and then, in moments become a dreamer again? Or do you think it's like they're just two core personality types and you're like most, even if you lean somewhere, you're mostly a flavor of one of them?
I feel it depends on what aspect of your life you're talking about. Like when it comes to love, I'll always be a dreamer, no matter what.
Right.
But when it comes to work, I want to be a dreamer, but I have to be a realist. You want to fly too high, but you got to wait for your time.
Yeah.
And I think, again, time is what I believe in as well.
Yep.
So
I know you love time.
You've traveled a lot while writing the album.
Yeah.
I have a few questions regarding traveling.
Ask away.
If anybody wanted to write their first song and they wanted to write it while traveling or in any place, where would you suggest they should write it?
I would suggest they write it in London because it's such a romantic city. I don't even know how to... I don't even mean romantic in the sense of romantic love. I just mean in the sense of it's so stimulating and you walk... And it's such an easy place to walk around and... it's an inspiring city also in terms of music history. Like so much amazing music has come from there. And there's so many things, musical things to see over there as well. So I would say London is a great place to start.
Which was your favorite place where you wrote? Maybe like a particular song, or like you were the happiest when you were sitting there and you wrote this particular lyric maybe and you were like over the moon.
It's such a boring answer, but I would also have to say London. I would have to say.
But clearly you love it.
I do love it. I do love
Yeah.
London, and it's also because like I'm somebody who really enjoys being by myself in the creative process and letting ideas marinate in your head and tinkering away at things by yourself, and like that relationship with music, that really insular personal relationship. And I feel like London is a place that I really get to do that, and it's sort of away from like I'm signed to a label in the US, like the commercial stuff is over there, but London feels like removed from it. So
That makes sense. I've never been to London, but
Well,
yeah, I got my reason why.
now you have a song. Now you have to go and write a song there.
What song was it?
I wrote Tragedy there. I mean, it's not about something that happened in London. Something about it happened in New York, but I wrote it there.
Since you were talking about the creative process, I have one question. As a listener, I've always wondered, do you write lyrics first and then put them to maybe like beats or music, or do you write your music first and then put it to?
Typically, I would say 95% of the time it's melodies. So it's like somebody play chords on the piano, and then I'll write the song to the chords. But there were a few instances in this album of lyrics coming first. There was a song on the album called Lonely City Waltz, which was a poem that I converted.
Yeah, I was. This is literally a question.
Yeah, the Lonely City Waltz is a poem that I converted to a song. So that was an example of a flip in the process.
Yeah. It was like I was listening to music, and then there's just spoken word poetry,
Yeah.
which I found it to be first off so fresh.
Thank you.
Because I don't think I've ever heard something like that. But apart from that, I loved the poetry.
Oh, thank you.
Do you remember it?
The actual poem?
Yeah.
I do.
Do you want to recite it?
Absolutely not.
I do this thing when I do my podcasts, and it's called One Thing That Made You Happy This Week. And I always say one thing that made me happy this week. So I want to ask you that question.
Can we start with you?
Okay, one thing that made me happy this week. I bought my first car.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah.
What was the car?
It's a Hyundai Creta.
Amazing.
Yeah. It's also my birthday month.
Oh, great.
So I'm excited.
Okay, wow. That's a great one. What made me happy this week? I had a really great... Well, first of all, being in India is always so nice. Like waking up in the morning today. It was very nice to be back. I had such a good time the last time I was here. And then I also had a really great day on Friday with my friend from college. And it was a day where I was like, I've been a little bit stressed, kind of, this album's coming out. There's just been lots of things on my mind. And it was a day where I decided not to think about any of those things and pretend that I had no obligations. And I walked around and had a glass of wine over lunch.
For lunch? Okay, I was like, glass of wine for lunch sounds
Just a-
great.
just a glass.
Just the glass of wine.
But we had a glass of wine over lunch, and it was like, felt like a nice breath. I was like, okay, there's more to life than just this album campaign.
Not taking things too seriously.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, the one last question, and then I have like a little suggest a song for situation. So
Fine.
that'll be like a rapid fire. But one question I have is, before a song comes out, okay, you already, since overthinker to overthinker, I know a lot of thoughts go in your head. But what is that one thing you would say to yourself as maybe a third person, or one thing that helps you calm down when you
Before a song comes
yeah,
out?
before a song comes out or anything?
Just that I try and remind myself that it felt right, and the making of it was enjoyable, and the process is so much more important than the result sometimes. And my job is, yes, to make music for people, but it's also to preserve my relationship with music and feel the love that I have towards music. And so if I'm doing something that's artistically fulfilled by, then it's fine.
I love that. That's so cute. Okay. Moving to the last little segment that I have. It's basically I'm going to give you the most random situations and you just have to suggest a song. It can either be from Private Blizzard, because this will come out when like the album's fully out. So, okay, I'm just going to suggest and you just give me a song. Okay, if you're breaking up, when you know that breaking up with someone is the right choice.
I barely have listened to the song, but it's Single Soon by Selena Gomez. I haven't even listened to it once, I think.
No, but
I know
it's
that,
very apt.
I know that that's the concept of the song, and it's the first thing that came into my mind.
If you got dumped over a text.
Tragedy.
Okay, if you're sitting in a subway after seeing your ex with someone new.
I mean, I would have to say maybe Speed of Light.
Very accurate. The moment you realize you've moved on and they don't bother you anymore.
It's like the songs that come to my mind are like it's so random. Maybe like I would do something that hypes me up. So maybe like a song from Brat. So I'd do Apple or something. That like for the energy, not for the lyrical content.
If you're sitting in your dressing room before a show.
Some sort of jazz live performance of a jazz thing or something. Something that's calming and soothing.
In your bed alone at night after winning a Grammy.
Wow. Man, the manifestation is incredible.
No, but I hope you're not alone.
Well,
I just really wanted to make it sad.
yeah, no, but this is so it's I'm in the bed alone.
Yeah.
So it's like I have nobody share the Grammy. That's the perspective in this, right? Okay.
I'm sorry.
So this is like adding subtlety and nuance to this question.
A very sad one.
I'm trying to think of a song that has like bittersweet in the title or something. Maybe Bittersweet Symphony.
Okay. Realizing you met the love of your life.
I would say go for One and Only on my album.
Okay. You knew your song right away.
That one's easy.
Okay, lastly, before we end this little chat, if there's anything you want your listeners who are going to come here and watch this because they love you to know, what would you say to them?
I would say, I hate you. I'm just kidding. That was a joke. No, I love you guys. Thank you so much for supporting me. I mean that. And I can't wait to see some of you tomorrow at the event.
All right. Okay, that's it for my chat with Dhruv. You were a sport. Thank you so much.
No, thanks for having me.
And that's it for the video. I really hope you enjoyed the conversation. I think we spoke about all of our traumas at this point, but that's what it's about, stories, right? You get to know so much more about the person. I hope through this video you got to know about Dhruv as well as me a little bit and our thoughts, ideologies. And to be honest, we're in this world with people to connect with people, and I think there's nothing better than knowing their opinions on love and compatibility. But I really hope you enjoyed this episode, and let me know who you want here next. And I'll keep giving you other kinds of videos also on YouTube, don't worry. This is just something like a passion project that I really love because I love stories and I love knowing more about stories. So yeah, I really hope you enjoyed it. Tell me if there are any more questions that you'd like me to ask other people, if there are any more questions that you want me to answer, if there are any other people you want to see on the show. So yeah. Alright, thank you so much for watching and staying till here. You're amazing, we love you, and be the main character of your own tragedy. Bye.